Hi everyone, welcome back to Mom and Podcast. I'm Megan.
I'm Jessica.
And we're so excited to be back again. We had a fun little Halloween party for our kiddos last night with
We
all
did.
of us.
Nora was so excited on the way home. I love Halloween.
I know
so
that
cute.
I'm like so glad because I worried it wouldn't be like they would think it was like a little bit of a fake Halloween because it kind of was, but then they seemed happy.
Yeah, I think so. What we did was we had a bunch of little bags that we had put out at 3 different neighbors' houses, and so they were just left outside. So there was no contact, no ringing doorbells or anything. They just went and walked up to the houses, but they still got candy. They got to say trick or treat because at one of the houses they at least came outside on their front porch and said hi. So it was fun. They got to do that. They got to have their candy, and we bought, just an FYI to everyone, Target has some super cheap, fun Halloween themed games, like $5 or $6 for a bean toss that's in the shape of a pumpkin, and I think it's mummy bowling. So super cute and cheap, and just fun ways to make it at home holiday fun. Since I don't know about everyone else, but I feel the need to sort of amplify the holidays now because I feel like the kids are missing out on so much. It's like we've never decorated our house for Halloween, and I feel like I have to go all out this year because we're trying to make everything more fun and exciting since it's not the norm. Although setting up terrible habits and expectations for years to come.
Yeah, we're not in the same camp. We did just pumpkins. I still want it to be really fun, but I don't know. I didn't decorate very much.
Well, that's okay. Hey, you got bats. I know you have bats for my
I know
leftovers.
they're not up yet. I can't even remember what bag I put them in, but Asher on the way home last night was like, "We didn't put the bats up." So, I guess we're doing that today.
Well, they're pretty easy. They're fun. And the kids can do them on their own, which is kind of nice. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like we're home. We want them to feel festive. And every time we go outside, Nonora's like, our house is so spooky. I love it.
Oh, that's funny.
So maybe it's for me more than the kids. Maybe I'm just projecting onto them.
Oh, no, I think decorations are fun. I just didn't feel like I had to, I don't know. And the kids were so cute. So, what were Nora and Truman for the party?
Nora was Olaf. It's a costume that she had from like a year and a half ago at school. It was character week, and she really wanted to be Olaf, so I got her one. And even though I bought her a new costume this year because she had said she wanted to be Bingo from Puppy Dog Pal. So
Yeah, I know. That's what I thought. I was surprised when she was Olaf.
We were just building up our play clothes collection, really.
Mm-hmm.
And Truman was a dinosaur. It's a costume that I think you and I both, no, just me, right?
I think we've all
We both
worn
worn
it.
it?
I don't know because I always think you wore it and I didn't. We'll have to ask Mom.
Yes. Either both of us wore it or just me as kids, but all of our kids have worn it. Truman was the last one. So it was pretty cute. So he was a little dinosaur. And what were Tori and Asher?
And Asher was Spider-Man. I didn't even ask him what he wanted to be for Halloween because hates making decisions. He gets overwhelmed when there's too many choices, which I 100% understand. So we hadn't had that conversation because I thought I might just buy him one, which isn't very fun, but it's not fun the other way when he makes a decision. So he just told me multiple times he wanted to be Spider-Man. So we got him a Spider-Man costume off Marketplace. And Tori was a little doggy Spot.
Gosh, she was such a cute little dog.
Yes, Asher wore that before. They're so cute.
Oh, it's so cute.
She was so cute.
Well, the little butt of that costume was so big, but so walking behind her, she was like just a little waddle. It was super cute.
It was so cute.
And she thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, she didn't complain about it. I feel like Asher wasn't thrilled with costumes at that age. Like he was excited for them, but when they got put on, he didn't like how they felt.
Fair. Well, I'm glad we got to do something fun, and I hope you all are able to do something fun or have fun things planned in the works for your kids. And if not, that is okay too. One day at a time.
Whatever works this year.
Yes, exactly.
And we are so excited this week for episode 11 of Mommin. We interviewed Kristy and Joelle from Two of a Kind Earrings. They started this company in 2019 for a fundraiser, and it kind of evolved into selling earrings. And so, how their company works is that they give a pair of earrings away for every pair sold to a caregiver of a pediatric cancer patient. In 2018, both of their sons were diagnosed with cancer, and that is where they had the inspiration and the passion to start this company. So, in this episode, they talk about both of their stories. They talk about their families and the cancer diagnosis that they received in both of their families, as well as treatment and some advice about how people who have friends and family with a pediatric cancer diagnosis can support those families and those kiddos, including the siblings. They were very open and vulnerable, and we're so thankful for them for sharing their stories and then telling us about Two of a Kind. And Jesse and I both own a pair of Two of a Kind earrings, and I definitely have my eye on many more. They are beautiful. They're handmade leather earrings. Kristy and Joelle make them themselves, so you should definitely check them out.
Yeah, we love talking to them. They had such great stories to share and really helpful advice that can be taken away not only for moms who are currently going through the struggle of being a caretaker for a child with cancer, but just for anyone about how to navigate challenging times and sort of adapting to challenges that come your way. So I thought that was really helpful. And they're just really inspiring, fun, awesome ladies.
Yes, they were so fun to talk to. So we hope you enjoyed listening.
Please make sure to leave a rating or review if you enjoy this episode. And make sure to check us out at momandpodcast.com or on Instagram at momandpodcast.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Joelle and Kristy. I'm Megan.
I'm Jessica.
And we are so excited to talk to the two of you today.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thanks so much for having us.
So who we have on today are Kristy and Joelle, and they are the founders of Two of a Kind Earrings. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourselves and about the earrings that you create, the beautiful earrings?
Yeah, thanks for having us. I'm Joelle. My husband and I live in Chaska, Minnesota with our 4 kids. We have an 11-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 4-year-old. So that would make 4 children. My husband and I have been married for 13 years, and I was trying to add up how many times we have moved, but I honestly can't. So I think it's been about 6-ish times we've moved in the 13 years that we've been married.
Wow.
So we've kind of been all over the place. So I am a registered nurse by trade, and I'm not working right now as a nurse, and I am one of the co-owners of Two of a Kind.
Awesome. Where are you guys originally from?
I'm originally from Jamestown, North Dakota, and my husband is from Wahpeton, North Dakota.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
And Kristy, what about you?
Yeah, so we also live in Chaska, Minnesota, and my husband and I have been married for 10 years, and we have 2 kids. Our son is 7 and our daughter is 4. Yeah, I'm originally from California, and my husband grew up out here, so I had come out here for school, and we had met, and now I've been anchored out in Minnesota.
Oh.
But yeah, that's a little about us.
Is your family okay? And do you still have family in California?
Yeah, most of my family is still in California. Are you talking about like the fires and stuff?
Yeah.
I know my mom and sister are not super close to where they are, but enough to like have some concerns about air and stuff. So people aren't going outside and whatnot. But yeah, everyone's okay for now. No one's had to evacuate from my family. But
yeah, that's tough.
Yeah. The last thing we all need right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And trading Minnesota for California seems, I don't know.
There are pros and cons for both. I will tell you that.
That's a great way to look at it, for sure.
And how did you two meet? Kristy and Joelle?
So my family had moved to Chaska, in June of 2018. And
2017.
I'm sorry, 2017. too, because like I wrote all this down. I should know this. 2000, yes. So June of 2017, we moved to Chaska, and I signed my youngest daughter, who was 2 at the time, up for an ECFE class. So early childhood foundation education. Family education. Thank you. I'm like, I know the acronym. And
yeah, exactly.
yeah, and then after Kristy had moved, she had her daughter, who was 2 at the time, also joined the class. So we were in this little ECFE class together with a whole bunch of other moms, and realized that we had 2 boys that were the same age that had been in preschool at the time, and our girls were the same age. So we just started getting along and did some play dates outside of the actual class. That's how we met.
Awesome.
That's great. Always nice when you connect with another mom so quickly.
Yeah,
Definitely.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about how 2-of-a-kind earrings came to be and the reason behind it, your personal histories with childhood cancer?
Yes. Kristy can start.
Okay, so yeah, so we did meet in ECFE, but we've become close because of a lot of other things. So 2017, 2018 was like the school year that we had our ECFE class. And in May of 2018, my son, who was 5 at the time, was diagnosed with T-cell Acute Lymphoblastic Leukemia. It was completely unexpected. We actually were just bringing him in for his annual wellness check. And I had noticed some excessive bruising on his shins and mentioned it to the doctor at the end of the appointment. Like they always say, is there anything else that you have concerns about? And so she ordered labs and found some really concerning blood work and sent us to Children's, where he was later diagnosed with leukemia. So that was May of 2018. And Joelle, if you want to kind of tell your part and then how we kind of came together.
Yeah. So her son was diagnosed in May of 2018. When, let me backtrack a little bit. My family and I decided to move from Minnesota to Indonesia in the summer of 2018 for my husband's job.
Wow.
Yeah. So here we are, this family of 6 on this like adventure, of a lifetime. And so right before we had moved, my son, who was 5 at the time, developed this little like bump underneath his left eyelid. And we didn't know what it was. We brought him in and they said, oh, it's a bad sty. We'll drain it. He's fine. So we did that and we moved over to Indonesia. We were there for about, I'd say like 3 or 4 weeks, and the bump came back. And so at that point, my son and we went to Singapore to find a specialist, pediatric ophthalmologist. And within we got there and they did a tissue sample on the area and an MRI, and they sent us back to Indonesia to wait for results. And so it was like a Friday, and I opened my email. I was giving my kids the iPad for something, and there was an email from the oncologist or ophthalmologist saying that he had rhabdomyosarcoma, which is a rare form of cancer. And so we found out actually when we were in Indonesia, and within a week's time, we had to determine what his treatment was, if we were going to have treatment in Singapore or come back to the United States. And ultimately, we decided to come back to the US to seek treatment, just because if you've ever gone through anything very traumatic, you need to have that support system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so one of the things, I remember being in Indonesia and calling Kristy, and I still don't remember what time it was. I think it was probably like 4 a.m. your time, because it's a 12-hour time difference. And just right away, she knew, she had gone through it and she knew what it was. And she was a huge support just for us to come back and start everything. And it was amazing. So I think just having, all childhood cancer journeys are different, but having these similarities with the same age boys and, they're going through some of the same things, it really brought us together as friends.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine, first of all, that situation that you went through, even getting a diagnosis, but to be in a foreign country,
Mm-hmm.
that had to be so overwhelming.
It was. It was very overwhelming.
How quickly from that point did you decide to come back, and where did you decide to come back to?
Yeah, so we, in the 6-ish times that we've moved, in 2017, we had moved from North Dakota to Minnesota. So we were here in Chaska, Minnesota for about a year before we decided to move to Indonesia. And so once we got his official diagnosis and what the treatment plan would be, I think it was within 1 week's time that we got diagnosis. We had a PET scan. We had a meeting over there with an oncologist. We had a tele meeting here with the oncologist and just decided we needed to be at Children's Minnesota because then we could be back with friends and family. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it was within a week because we got a diagnosis on a Friday. We flew out on a Friday and we landed actually on my husband and I's 11th year wedding anniversary, which he was insistent on taking a picture. And I'm in the airport and I've cried my eyes out every single day. And he's like, I need to take this picture. And I'm like, I don't like you right now. But I look back on that picture and it's like, I'm glad he took it. I know the pain of what was going through, but like, I am glad that he took that picture. Yeah. So we did. We came back to Chaska.
Okay. And so you, both of your kiddos got treatment at Children's Minnesota. Mm-hmm. And I was a nurse. My favorite nursing job I've ever had, probably, or one of the top, was at Children's Minnesota when fourth floor in St. Paul was oncology, which was actually probably, it sounds like, before you guys started getting treatment. They switched it all to Minneapolis, but those docs and NPs are, and the nurses in the clinic, they're just phenomenal.
They are. Yeah.
I could totally see wanting to be there.
Yep.
Not that you want to be there, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
We can go a little bit deeper into both of those in a bit, but then how did you guys decide, and when did you decide to start the 2-of-a-kind earrings?
Yeah, so we obviously our friendship had strengthened through both of our journeys and supporting each other and whatnot. And in September of 2019, we decided to put together a fundraiser to donate money to Children's Cancer Research Fund, which is an organization that does childhood cancer research that's connected with the U of M. And we have both done a lot of advocacy work with that organization. And we decided to make some earrings and sell them and raise funds for that organization. And so that was the first step. And it was really successful. Like I can't remember how much we donated, but we sold all our earrings pretty much. And with that success, we wanted to continue and decided to start 2-of-a-kind. It is a different business model than like raising money for a charity. But we decided that the peer support has been so important to us throughout all of this, connecting with other, mostly other moms going through this. A lot of times the moms are kind of designated as the primary caregiver in these situations. And it is hard. Like parenting is pretty lonely already. And parenting a kid with a severe illness is even more isolating. And so having the peer support has always been really important to us. And we decided that our model was going to change to a buy one, give one. So for every pair of earrings that is purchased, we gift a pair to a caregiver of a child with cancer. So the beginning of the year is when we started that and kicked that off. And COVID has kind of messed up a few plans here and there, but we're really seeing it take off now, and we're just so excited to be able to give back to the community that has helped us so much.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
And going back a little bit, you said for the fundraiser, you decided to make earrings. Did either of you ever make earrings before? Or
no.
You said that, I'm like, that's really cool.
Right. I just remember we had gotten together and we decided we wanted to do a fundraiser together. And for some reason we were like, brainstorming, and she was like, I really had been interested in making leather earrings. And I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds so fun. And so we called a friend that we knew that made leather earrings, and she was super helpful. Like, she put us in the right direction. And so I think that first fundraiser, we had 8 styles, and we named, maybe 6, but we named them after our kids.
Mm-hmm.
Cute.
And it was so cool, because then, like, my one girl was like, oh, did my style, did it sell out first?
Yeah, I was wearing those ones the other day, and she's like, hey, you're wearing me.
She did. She, like, right when Kristy walked in the door, she's like, oh, I see what you're wearing.
That's
So yeah, and then I just, right after that fundraiser, I just remember Kristy saying, like, yeah, we're going to do this for real. And it's like, yeah, we are. And it's been, like she said, it's been growing, and it's challenging, and it's so fun. Yeah,
it's been so great. My favorite part is receiving the messages from the moms that are receiving the gifts, and just telling us thank you for, like, I mean, it's such a small gesture on our part, but just letting them know that, like, we see them, we hear them, we're here for them. And yeah, it's been pretty awesome to get those messages.
I think that's so huge, because it's so hard to be a caregiver. So I guess it's probably not even describable. And I haven't been a caregiver of a child, just of someone older, but it is one of the hardest things. And I feel like when it's a child who's sick, the focus is definitely the child, and not that it shouldn't be, but caregivers get left behind, and they need support too.
Yeah.
And so, like, I feel like that's amazing. Like, a pair of earrings. Yeah, I see what you're saying, but it is a lot. It's like, you're seeing, here's something you can put on in the hospital, and it's going to make you feel like a little bit of a bright spot in your day.
Exactly.
It is.
Yeah.
And we always say, like, whether you're having a handle it kind of day or a hot mess kind of day, sometimes just, even if you haven't showered, put on that pair of earrings, and it can just kind of change.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Earrings make you look make you feel so much more put together.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anything.
We agree.
Yeah, having someone who's struggling, or being a caregiver of a child who is very sick, making them feel like they've done the smallest amount of self-care. I just love that so much.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
How has it been learning, or maybe you guys knew how to run a business before this, but how has that part of it been?
That has been.
Yeah, we totally know what we're doing.
It's been
Just
interesting.
like we did when we started recording.
Yeah, we totally knew everything right away.
I know. I feel like with our perspective, like, when you go through something like this, and your perspective on life just changes. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like both of us were like, we don't know what we're doing, but we can figure this out. So we got started, and we're kind of still learning as we go. But yeah, the making part is not hard. All the other stuff is.
Yeah, we like the weeks when we're like, okay, we have to make earrings all week, and then we love those weeks, and it's like, oh, now we have to do taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I totally get that.
Have you found that it's been helpful to have something else to put your time and energy into, though, that's not caregiving?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I am a teacher that is not working right now, for many reasons. And it's been really hard because I've been wanting to return to the classroom, but it just doesn't work for our family right now. And so having this, like, I do call it work. I need to work right now is what I tell my kids and whatnot. And it's definitely nice to be able to focus some energy on this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Completely agree.
And how do you guys, or maybe I missed it, but how do you decide do you send the earrings to certain hospitals, or how do you connect?
Yeah.
How does that part work?
Yeah. So let's see, we started in January, and so we had kind of been building up our numbers. And at one point, there's a organization, a nonprofit called Momcology, which is for caregivers of children with cancer. And so I think we had reached out to maybe post something on one of the Facebook groups, and one of the founders of Momcology reached out to us and said, we'd love to partner with you. And so we grew into this partnership, and our original intent, we sent over 140 pair of earrings for them to be able to distribute to what they have retreats every year. So they had I don't know, 8 or 10 retreats with like 12 women. So we had sent these earrings. And so that intent was retreats. And obviously COVID changed that, which we just pivoted then. And they sent those out to caregivers that they had found. And then we also gave a bulk donation to Children's Minnesota, which was probably one of my favorite ones, just because that's where our children got treated. And like that is and was us. You know, so just knowing that like that could be just a special point in their day. And then for the remainder, we just we have caregivers who fill out a form, and they're able to go and pick out a pair of earrings for themselves, and we send it to them.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. That's amazing.
I love that. I love that. And I love that. I feel like when you put something that you're passionate about into the world, and like them saying like, oh, let's partner. I love it when people just support each other, and they saw what you were doing and said, this is a great way to distribute.
Yeah.
That's great. So we talked a little bit about each of your own personal histories with having a child that had cancer. Would you feel comfortable sharing a little bit about what that's like? I mean, taking your child to the hospital for treatment and like how it impacted them in terms of like their school and their extracurriculars, just what that journey was like for both of you and your families, you know, your husbands, your other children.
Should I go first?
Yes.
Okay. So, my son, so he was diagnosed in May of 2018, and he's actually still in treatment. For leukemia, it is a really long treatment. So his is going to be 3.5 years when all is said and done. He'll be done in September of next year. So we're down to the countdown of less than a year now. So we're really excited about that. For his treatment, the first year or so was super intense, where we were in clinic multiple times a week, and he had unexpected neutropenic fevers, which means that he was at risk of having like a blood infection or whatnot, and they need to monitor him. And we had he was neutropenic a lot during that first year, so meaning he didn't really have much of an immune system. So we had to stay home a lot. We had to cancel pretty much everything. And he missed more than half of his kindergarten year. So that first year, I would say, was really hard. We were not only devastated by his diagnosis and overwhelmed with all of the new medical jargon that we had to learn, but we also kind of were grieving our lives. Like our life was just completely flipped upside down. So grieving our previous life, really grieving some relationships that were lost in the shuffle of things. So, and then also attending to our child who was really sick all the time from his medication. So that was very hard in many ways. And then in February of 2019, he started a phase called long-term maintenance, which meant that he is getting less intense chemos, and he doesn't have to go into clinic as often. And we do still have to monitor him closely because he does have an implanted portacath where they infuse the medications. And there is a high risk of infection and stuff for that. So we have to monitor that closely. But overall, since he started maintenance, he has felt more like himself, and he's been able to go to school more consistently than that kindergarten year. But he does still have to go in every 4 weeks for infusions, and periodically he has spinal taps, and he does take an oral chemo every day, and he does still have a little bit of a suppressed immune system, yeah. So it changed our lives completely. So we've had to adjust and we adjust, but we adapted and kind of found our new normal. And we have to be careful in many situations, but like we found a way to still live life with what we were given. So yeah, that's the short story.
Yeah.
That sounds like such a journey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it gives perspective always when you think about, kids who are battling cancer, like we get scared for one blood draw and they're getting poked.
I know.
Constantly.
Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many times he's been poked, and then an adult tells me, "Oh, I can't give blood. It just can't do it." I'm like, really? You can't.
Oh, those kids are such rock stars too.
Right.
They adapt better than adults, but
it's true. It really is. They're so resilient.
They are.
Yeah.
And should we have Joelle's story and then okay. Yeah. So let's have you do your story.
Perfect. Yeah. So like for us, and again, this is like the shortened version, but when we had moved from Chaska, we rented out our house. And so when we decided to come back 2 months later because of wanting to seek treatment in the United States, we lived at my aunt and uncle's for a week because they lived in the cities and that was easy to do. And then we went and lived in an apartment. And so the goal was always, let's live in this apartment, let's get treatment done, let's go back to Indonesia, everything's fine, which it's not. And so we were in the apartment. I think my aunt and uncle moved us in the weekend that we started treatment at Children's. And so for anyone out there who has had a child that has had cancer, you get the diagnosis and it is like, this is when he will have surgery or he or she will have surgery to have the port put in. This is when we're starting chemo. And it is a laid out instruction on your treatment program. And so Patrick had his port put in and we had to be in the hospital that weekend for his chemotherapies. And we moved into the apartment then when we left the hospital that day. And so for Patrick's diagnosis, he had 6 months of 3 different type of chemotherapies. And then he also had proton beam radiation. And so for us, we were very lucky that we have Mayo right there in Rochester, which isn't too far from us. And so he had 27 treatments, which was over 5.5 weeks. And so for us, we had one parent going with him during the week there and staying at the Ronald McDonald House. And we had the other children and the other parent here. So that was really, really difficult for our family to go through that, being separated for that 5.5 weeks. That was very difficult. And then after that was done, he had the remainder of his 6 month treatment. And so at this point, he is 1.5 years out of treatment. He has no evidence of disease, and he will be in remission after 5 years after his treatment.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's really good. It's hard to describe because for a lot of cancer treatments, you have follow-up scans you have to do to see if anything comes back. And so it's great that we go to those scans and they're clean. Sometimes I get in my head about, okay, we have a scan now in 4 more months, because right now they're every 4 months for a year. And that's hard because you don't want to live in that moment. And so we take the joy as we can when we get those clean scans.
That is, anytime you're waiting, I think that, I just think it's normal. I think anytime you're in something like that and you go for that check-in, it's scary.
Yes, it is very scary.
And it's your kid.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
But that's awesome.
Yeah, he has no concern when we go into those scans.
Good.
Like as dreary as feelings as we have of being at the clinic, our boys, they made friends with the doctors and the nurses. And so when they go back, like Patrick's just like, okay, here's my favorite nurse and here's my doctor. And they come in and they say, your scans are clear. And he's like, okay. Now can we play a little bit? And it's like, okay.
Yeah, Liam is always like, oh, we're going to clinic. I get screen time today.
You're like, okay.
But if that's what they take out of it, like that's so great.
It is great. Yeah. Wow. And you talked a little bit about how with Patrick, it was hard. obviously he was separated from his siblings. Was Liam at all ever in that situation?
Well, separated, I'd say yes, but not as far as like distance wise. He probably had around 30 inpatient stays. So that was being separated from sister during that time, especially during flu season, because they don't allow anyone under 5 at the hospital.
Mhm.
So there was a period of time where like one parent was with him and one parent was with her. And at a certain point, my husband and I had a system where we would just alternate. So like every day we would just alternate. So we would switch kids basically. So that was really hard because it was honestly the relationship with my husband. Like I didn't see him for days. And yeah, so we had that. And then also with clinic days, a lot of times she was not supposed to come with me during flu season and whatnot. And honestly, with some of his procedures, it was really hard for me to bring her with us. So we would have like grandma watch her or a friend watch her. So we were away from her, from my daughter a lot while we were doing treatments. So we didn't have to, everything was done at Children's for him. So we didn't have to go anywhere, but there was still a lot of that kind of separation.
Yeah, that's so tough.
Yeah.
Is there anything for anyone who's just starting this that you felt like was helpful for the siblings?
I think I know now, I guess I don't know your answer to this, Joelle, but I know like for Stan and I, at a certain point, like especially when we had like multiple days that he was inpatient, like we felt bad leaving our daughter with someone else. Like that's not her family. Like we wanted her to be with us. Like, and we felt guilty and we felt angry that this was the choice that we had to make. So we did try to make sure that we were giving lots of attention to our daughter. And she was actually just under 2 when he was diagnosed. So honestly, we were actually kind of lucky that she was so young because I don't think that she really understood that our son was getting so much attention. Because I know, and Joelle can kind of speak to this, like when the siblings are a little older, there's a lot of jealousy that can happen because they get so much attention. But as parents, like we really felt guilty. So we did try to make sure that she was getting lots of attention. And like if we were going to be doing something for Liam, we made sure that we were going to do something for Isla too. Because she is having to be pretty strong through this as well. And kind of be flexible with what's expected of her and whatnot. But yeah, I'd say the attention, because it's really easy to just give the child who has cancer, it's so easy to just give them all the attention because that's who you want to show the love to. But the siblings are they need that too. But yeah.
Yeah. And I would say the exact same is the attention piece, and like, I'm so thankful we had friends and family around, and without even being asked, they would reach out and want to take the other kids to go do something while, Patrick was in treatment. The one thing for people starting out, like for us, I mean, everything was devastating. Radiation was really devastating. It's very hard on your body, and just that distance thing that we had spoken about. And so I just anticipated I would be going with Patrick to radiation the whole time. I didn't even think about it. And my husband spoke up one day and said, well, are we going to trade weeks? And I didn't even think twice about it because like that mama bear, I'm going to be with him feeling. And we did that. We traded on and off. And it was probably the best thing for us because then I got those off weeks with my other children. And just like Kristy was saying, like I was able to give them attention that I had not been able to give. And so that was just so important.
And that's like what kids want, right? More attention.
Right.
Oh, that is all. I mean,
yeah, what I'm just sort of blown away by is the fact that you two are both going through these ultimate nightmare mom situations, and instead of figuring out something for yourselves, you're taking care of other people by starting this company, and that's just the most beautiful and giving and such a mom thing to do. But I am so in awe of that, and I can only imagine how grateful these other moms are who are receiving this wonderful gesture of love and support, and I'm just blown away by that, truly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I never know what to say to that. I'm like, oh, you know.
Oh,
Yeah.
but I know it's always hard to receive praise or gratitude, but I do think, like, man, I've seen parents. I don't think there's anything harder or shittier, really. There's just like not even the right word for what those weeks in the hospital are like. And I am speaking as someone seeing it, to be with your kids, and then all the emotional side you have as their mamas. And so then to come from that pain and create something awesome. You can say thank you wholeheartedly.
Yeah. I think it also comes with, like, there are just so many amazing organizations that have been so generous to us in so many different ways, that we just, I don't know, we both just kind of have always been like, well, okay, what are we going to do to give back? Because we have to do this. And I think a lot of families in our situation kind of feel that way. There are a lot of like smaller nonprofits that families have created around the country to give back, because people are just so compassionate about situations like this.
Mm-hmm. That's really wonderful. I mean, a community you would never hope to be a part of, but so grateful that it's there.
Yeah.
You have to be. Yeah. Wow.
And pivoting a little bit, were there things, and we talked about the siblings, but were there things that people did that were helpful or maybe not helpful for your kiddos with cancer, so Liam and Patrick, and you guys? We can address them as two separate questions.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting because I was reading this question, I was reflecting on it. I used to be that person who, when you're going through a hard time, I was like what can I do for you? How can I help? And now that I've gone through this, it's like, you're never going to tell that person what you actually need.
Mm-hmm.
You're literally going to say, I'm fine, everything's fine, you know? So now it's just totally changed my perspective of like, someone's going through a hard time, I'm going to come clean your house. Can I come Wednesday or Thursday? Like there's no question. It's Kristy and I have this perspective of what are those things that like were super helpful when our children were diagnosed with cancer, and we just bring that into where we are now. And so if it's okay, let's bring a meal to them. Let's like, we just, you can't ask the question, because if you ask what they need, like, you're probably not going to be that truthful. It's just something that like, and sometimes when people came and just sat with us while we were in our pain, they don't have to understand our pain, but just being there, that was huge for me as the caregiver to a child who had cancer.
Yeah, I would say the same. I would say, like, people would say, oh, let me know if you need anything, or is there anything I can do for you, or things like that. But in that moment, you don't know what you need. Like, you can barely process what's going on, let alone figure out, like, do I have food in the fridge? I have, like, you don't know what you need at that point. So it was so helpful to have the people who just did the things, like just dropping off a meal or offering to do various little tasks and whatnot. But yeah, that was definitely the most helpful. Like, just do the things. Yeah.
That's very helpful.
Yeah. And then for the kids, I think like the attention they would get, you know, like Patrick had a very special relationship with his kindergarten she ended up being his kindergarten and first grade teacher. And I think like that was apart from his family, and that was really important that, you know, he have that relationship, and it wasn't surrounded by, here's this child with cancer. It was just this compassion the teacher had for what he needed and what he was growing into.
That's helpful.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that holds true for so many situations when you're like, oh, no, everything's okay. Because it is so much of all of our intuitions to be like, oh, nope, everything's good. I got this. Yeah. So I think that's so helpful to know for anyone going through something, like, no, just bring a meal.
Yeah.
Just show up with a mop and a broom. Yeah.
Were there top items? Say it was when you were in the hospital. I see this asked a lot in like groups, like, oh, my friend's babies in the NICU? What should I bring that mom? And was there anything that was helpful to you guys as the caregivers in the hospital to have, or a care package you liked?
I guess things that I used a lot were like I had my special hospital slippers that I only used at the hospital. I had tea. We always had a duffel bag packed because we didn't know when he would be inpatient. So I had like tea. I had some like books and puzzle books, and I had like those sticker by number books and just like things to take up time because you're just sitting there all day long. And a lot of times Liam wasn't allowed to leave his room because he had no immune system. So we were just stuck in the room. So things to pass the time were really helpful. Yeah, I guess that's in the hospital, that's kind of what helped. And then there's not a lot of really good meals to choose from at the hospital. So snacks are always welcome. And whatever meal delivery service is always nice too. Grubhub, DoorDash, whatever. I don't know what that looks like with COVID right now. And we haven't been inpatient for a while, but those were helpful when we were in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say the same thing is like, pack something for the caregiver who is there. So a book or something to distract them. Pack something for any siblings that would be there. Pack a gift card, and that's it. Just send it with your love. Send a card,
and chocolate,
especially with and chocolate. So when Patrick had his port placed, we had just moved back. We were going in for surgery, and the nurses came in. I don't even ever told you this, Kristy, but the nurses came in, and there was a bag, and it was from my ECFE moms, which is the class that I met Kristy in, and they just packed this bag, and it was chocolate, and it was a book, and it was like all the things we're now talking about. I would have never known to have that stuff or want that stuff or ask for that stuff, and it was just there.
That's awesome.
You did a similar thing for me too, because you came to the hospital when Liam was diagnosed, and you had chocolate. It was, I think, a bottle of wine.
Clearly we get each other.
I think it was a bottle of wine in there too. And
right. Kind of sipping that at the bedside, like.
That's probably one of the top questions we get in like the inside mom groups is like, is it okay to bring liquor to the hospital?
Guys, so I have to plead ignorance here. I've seen some things in hospital rooms, but I have never wondered if parents were drinking in their hospital, in their kids' hospital.
Now every time you see a coffee cup, you're gonna wonder if it's wine or if it's actually coffee.
Which, no judgment. You drink that wine.
Right.
Just didn't know.
Yep.
So one thing I'm just wondering, and this is shifting a little bit, but everyone's life is turned upside down now. And you have a different perspective on that. Your kids were also sick, and some people are sick with COVID, of course, but for a lot of us, it's that everything's just different. Has that changed your perspective of what things are like right now?
I think, and Kristy and I have talked about this, but back in March when everything shut down, we actually chuckled about it because we were like, this has been our last year and a half, 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like canceling plans, have to do it. And I think for people who have never gone through that was probably the hardest thing, that all these things were getting canceled, schools canceled, all these things. And we were just kind of like, we were already ready to adapt or pivot into what this new world was going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
Had that experience.
Yeah, I would say kind of the same. We had already gone through a lot of isolation with my son's neutropenia and not having an immune system. So we already knew what to do and how to entertain ourselves if we had to isolate again. So in a lot of ways, I feel like we kind of had an advantage because we knew that this wasn't going to be the end of the world to have to do this, and we knew how to entertain ourselves. So we were able to adapt very easily to having to stay home. And we had already been used to wearing masks when needed. And we already had the heightened awareness of being clean with the low immune system. Like we have always carried hand sanitizer with us and kept things sanitized and whatnot. And luckily we had a little bit of back stock of that stuff before everyone started hoarding things. But like, yeah, we knew how to do this. And things have changed a little bit as data has been coming out. At first we were not seeing anyone ever, and like not going to grocery stores or anything. And things have changed a little bit, and we know what kind of cautions to take now. But like, we were ready. Yeah.
Yeah. Do either of you have to be more cautious than maybe a family with kids your ages, due to the cancer diagnoses still, or are you guys in a place where you don't necessarily have to be more as extremely cautious?
At the beginning of the pandemic, and talking, because Liam is still going in for appointments every 4 weeks. In the beginning, they did say, don't do anything, don't go anywhere, don't see anyone, because we just didn't know anything about the virus.
Yeah.
And for most viruses that Liam still gets, he is more susceptible to a longer recovery period and a more severe illness.
Okay.
So in the beginning, that's what they were kind of saying. And then as time has passed and data has come in specifically about kids with cancer getting COVID, they're actually seeing that they're responding to the virus similarly to their peers.
Okay.
So it's more of an age thing than it is an underlying condition for Liam, specifically being in treatment still. So that has actually lessened our anxiety quite a bit. I mean, we're still very cautious. Like, we don't really go many places.
Mm-hmm.
But school just started a couple weeks ago, and we did decide to send him based on recommendations from his doctors. So, but as of now, what they've told us is that it's a similar response as his peers. So there shouldn't be an added risk as of now.
And I could see that. I feel like he's missed. I think it's probably good and bad for you guys. Like, yes, you have this perspective, but also that means you've been doing this different life for so long, and you're probably looking forward to a little bit of return to normalcy.
Yeah.
And so I could totally see saying, we're going to send him because he missed so much of kindergarten and we want him to have that.
Exactly. Yeah. And honestly, talking through some of it, all the kids are wearing masks. All the adults are wearing masks. Everything is being wiped down multiple times a day. Like, this might even be the safest time to be sending him to school. So
yeah, it's not like COVID was his only risk before.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what works for your family. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Joelle, it sounds like you maybe don't have those same, because there's no neutropenia or chemo going on for Patrick.
Yeah. So a lot of the research suggests that it takes about a year for immune system to come back to normal after chemotherapies. And so Patrick was already past that point. And so similar, like, we didn't really do anything either, but there wasn't really that risk that he had a suppressed immune system at the time.
Okay. Thanks. That's a lot. Yeah. I bet that was a lot to figure out.
Yeah. It's been stressful. Lots of ups and downs.
Yes.
So that is a lot. And you guys are obviously managing a lot within your households. What is it that you do for you that is outside of the two-of-a-kind earrings, that's outside of taking care of your family? What is your sort of self-care routine, or do you have one?
Yeah. We talk self-care all the time because that's the thing, right? When you're like going through, especially treatment for a child with cancer, it's like you're in survival mode. And then you start coming out of that and you're like, oh, this is not sustainable. I need to do something for myself. Two of a kind is a huge part of that, right? I tend to I'm going to make earrings. Yeah. Bye, guys.
I mean, it's working, but it's also like being able to like throw on the home edit while you're doing it.
All the Netflix, every streaming. But like for me, I really, really enjoy reading books, and I enjoy like going walking, and just so for me, it wasn't about the act of doing the self-care. It was about the act of asking or like telling my family I was doing it, which I think a lot of moms can relate to. And when I started doing that, I always felt bad. And then it was like, no, I need this time.
Mhm.
And so now it's like, it's so easy. And my family responds pretty well to it. You know, they're usually like, okay, mom needs a moment. Yeah. And we actually moved back into our home that we own. And so a lot of painting has happened, which Kristy can attest to. I'm always painting something new. But I love doing that sort of stuff. I just like the other day, I listened to your guys' podcast as I was painting my railing going up the stairs.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. But that to me, it was just like, I just had a moment where I could just do what I needed to do, enjoy listening, and not have to be that caregiver at the time.
That's awesome.
Yes. That's one of my favorites too, I have to say. During COVID, I've painted many rooms and listened to podcasts and just zoned out. You have to focus. You can't do anything
have
else.
to.
So it's like, I don't know. I like it. I agree.
Agreed.
Do you have a favorite book?
Oh, right now I'm reading the Poisonwood Bible, which Kristy gave me. And it's good. It's good, but it throws me off because I'm like, I was reading it on Friday night and something huge happened in the book. And then like sometimes I get too into books.
So you didn't
But
sleep.
it's a really good one. Well, I didn't. It's not that I didn't sleep. I was just like, okay, that happened. And I had to kind of process it before I went on. And my husband laughs. He's like, what book are you reading now? What's going on?
I love that. And Kristy, what about you? What do you do?
So I was better about self-care before COVID. I feel like it just kind of threw me off and just kind of in survival mode again for a little while. But I do like to draw a bath and just watch a show or something. And I'll just like, I'm really good about just like asking my husband, hey, will you put them to bed so I can hop in the bath? And I have my time. I do love to read as well. We actually just moved recently too, so my reading has been neglected, but I do like to read and listen to books and listen to podcasts and whatnot. I guess some of my self-care too, I'm a very extroverted and social person, so a lot of the isolation has been really hard for me. So I do try to make sure that like if I'm invited to do things, like I kind of say yes to everything. So I do try to make sure that I am making time for that too, whether it's like book club or going for a walk or even during COVID, it's been like, let's have a FaceTime call kind of thing. So yeah.
What's your favorite show to put on if you're watching by yourself?
Let's see. I don't watch a whole lot of TV. What did I put on recently? Oh, well, the Home Edit. That's what it's called, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that organizing show. It just came out. Yeah. I already binged that. Awesome. Sometimes I'll just watch some random ones of Grey's Anatomy. I'm behind a couple seasons, but that's a lot of shows to choose from or episodes to choose from. But, yeah.
That's great. One question that we haven't been asking our guests, but we were talking about the other day, and I'm very curious to start asking, is do you have a mom that inspires you or someone that any parent that inspires you and that you sort of look to?
It's a great question.
It's okay if you don't, we'll edit it out.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we probably have a lot actually.
Yeah.
Just I think especially in this community, in the childhood cancer community, we unfortunately see a lot of families who lose their kids. So there are so many families who have taken such a devastating situation and have put so much good into the world. So I feel like there are multiple people that we could list in that situation that, are doing amazing things. But
that's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have to say, like, I'm going to have the example of, like, for me, my own mom, just there's a lot of times that I can go back in my life and like, that was really good wisdom she gave me, or she was silent. So I could figure out how I was doing it wrong and how to get back on the same path. So I think sometimes like when I'm struggling, just giving her a call, and she always has some good advice for me.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, I love that.
And doesn't have to be related to having a child who's sick. Just a parenting tip that you guys have been given by someone that you guys really like for your families. Okay, if you don't have one.
Silent. No, so this is, I don't even know where I had learned this from, but when you're traveling with children, right, oftentimes we want to keep the same routine. We want to do everything the same. And I've come to realize that like when I'm traveling with my children, I'm going to have the lowest expectations possible. And then they are going to exceed them. And it works every time.
Your kids are like fantastic travelers though.
But like, I'm not getting mad at them. I'm like, you want to go to bed at midnight? Great. Have fun. See you in the morning.
I love it. What about you, Kristy?
I guess I don't really have like a parenting tip that I've gone by, but just like with our experience and our perspective, I feel like when you first have a child, like you have all of these plans and you read books and you have all of these ideas of what it's going to look like to be a parent. And for the first 5 years, like it kind of worked for us to like have that mindset. But once my son was diagnosed, it was like, we don't have control over any of this. And a lot of times, little things that would normally stress me out, I just don't even care about anymore. It's like looking at the big picture, like it just some little things just don't matter. Yeah.
That's a great reminder.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like the silver lining in something like going through something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was beautifully said.
If you have a cute or funny kid story that you would like to share, either one of you.
Or both.
So we laughed because we both struggled with this question.
We texted each other about it earlier.
But I do actually have a funny story. We were making s'mores last night in the driveway, and we had totally forgotten that on Saturday nights we have an ice cream truck that comes around our neighborhood. So like we are making the sweets, and then we hear the ice cream truck coming, and of course all the kids are like, ice cream, ice cream, ice cream. So my husband was like, oh, I'm sorry guys, like we don't have any money, we'll do it next week. And so the ice cream truck, we know her pretty well. She was chatting with us, and our youngest, who is now 4, Lucy, she went in the house. She comes out like 5 minutes later carrying her piggy bank.
Oh,
you guys, and she's like, the piggy bank is bigger than her. So like, she's like waddling with it, and she's like, don't worry guys, I got money.
So cute.
And we laughed hysterically. Like she knew it. And that's like, Kristy and I talk about this, those girls, like what they went through. They are so far beyond their age. Mm-hmm. Like she just knew, I'm going to go get my piggy bank. Yep. And then we had to tell her she couldn't get ice cream. And then she'd have to wait till next week. We were not, but she was fine. She was just so cute. She really wanted to help.
Oh, that's so cute.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
Good for you for sticking with it. I feel like
I know.
I would have
caved.
Gosh.
Okay, happy ice cream.
Well, the worst part was like it was our 4 children and some other children, and I'm like, I don't think you have enough to pay for the neighborhood to have ice cream tonight.
Yeah, she probably would have.
But then we promised they could get ice cream. Next week is the last week of the ice cream truck, so we promised them we'll make a special effort. Yeah.
That's so sweet.
I love that. Well, I'm glad someone had one.
Yeah, Kristy, do you have
one?
I did. I thought of one. So throughout Liam's treatment, he has grown a love for Lego. And he has so many Lego sets, and he's so good. Like he's built like the biggest sets and just loves it. And there was one day he was on the Target app on the iPad looking at all the different Lego sets. And I look at his screen, and he has filled his cart with over like $2,500 worth of Lego sets.
What? How much is one Lego set?
They're pricey,
Well,
right?
some of them
So
are very expensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, buddy, we're not going to do that. But he had his mindset.
He's got good taste.
He gave up 100.
Wow.
That's a lot of Legos, man.
That's so funny. Well, we really appreciate it is, vulnerable and for taking your time to share your stories and talk about two-of-a-kind earrings.
Well, tell our listeners where they can find you and where they can find two-of-a-kind earrings.
Yeah. Okay. So we have a website. It is twoofofakindearrings.com. You can find us on Facebook at Two of a Kind Earrings. We are on Instagram at the number 2of-a.kind. And we started a TikTok account.
Oh,
We have one video, but we are at the number 2of-a-kind earrings.
Awesome. And we will take all of those in the show notes.
Okay.
Perfect.
Well, thank you both so much for taking the time to chat with us today and share your stories. And that's such a moving conversation. I'm just so grateful that you both were willing to share your experiences.
Yes, agree.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, it was fun to talk to you guys. Bye.
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 Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Mommin. We hope you enjoyed hearing from Kristy and Joelle. If you enjoyed this episode, we would love it if you would share it with a friend and head over and give us a rating and review. You can find us at Mommin Podcast on Instagram and momminpodcast.com. Thank you again for listening. We hope you have a great week. Bye.